Hi, I'm David Pintor, and this is a quick introduction to Docker Swarm. So in the last video I made, we created 3 nodes using Docker Machine and AWS, and today we're gonna turn these 3 nodes into a Swarm cluster, and we're gonna play around with it a little bit. So the first thing we need to do is to open the 2377 port in your inbound rules if you're using AWS. In the security groups for your Docker nodes, or basically in your nodes, wherever they are, make sure that you open that port so Swarm is available. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna check out what the IP address is in the node 1, in the 001 node, which is gonna be our first node in the Swarm cluster, and it's actually gonna be our master node. Okay, so we're gonna save the IP to an environment variable to make my life easier, and we're just going to run swarm init with the listen address, IP, and the port, and we're gonna save the output also to a temporary file. So Swarm has been initialized, and we get also in the output we get the command with the token we need to run against the nodes that we want to join this cluster. So at the moment, if we do a docker node ls, we can see that our Swarm has just one node in the cluster, which is Docker 001, and which is obviously the leader. Now, next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna use the temporary file we just created, and we're gonna extract and format the command to run against Docker 002 and Docker 003 that are gonna be the 2 workers in the cluster. So we just run that against Docker 002, and we run it against Docker 003. You will realize that we actually don't need to log into any of the nodes. We can just run everything directly from your client where you have your Docker machine installed. Just run Docker machine SSH, your node name, and then the command you want to run. So there you go. Node 2 and 3 are now part of the cluster. We can go ahead and check in the master node, which is the list of nodes. So we have now 3 nodes in the Swarm cluster, and Docker 001 is obviously still our leader. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a service. We're gonna create a web server using an Nginx container, and we're gonna also need to open the port 80 in our inbound rules if you're using AWS, or depending what you're using, just make sure you open your port 80 or whatever port you need for your application. So we're gonna go ahead, and in our master node we're gonna run docker service create. We're gonna call it web server, and we're gonna map the server, the HTTP port from our node server. We're gonna map it with the HTTP port of the container, and we're gonna use the Nginx container. So the command is gonna return the ID of the service. So next thing we're gonna do, we're just gonna list the services we have in our cluster. We obviously have only one service so far, which is the web server we just created. And we're gonna go ahead and check also the processes running for that service. So we have only one process, so we have basically one instance of that container running, and we can see that it's running in Docker 001. All right, so we're just gonna save the node Docker 001 into an environment variable, and we're gonna use it now. We're gonna use it to check basically what we're gonna do. We're gonna run Docker PS against the node that is running the process of our web server service, and we can see that a container is indeed running in node 001. Now if we now what we're gonna do now is we're gonna pick up the IP address of Docker 001, and we're gonna use it to run a curl against it, basically to check if the web server is running in node 1 in Docker 001. So we run the curl against the IP, and we can see that the welcome page of Nginx is displayed. So everything is working fine so far. Another thing we can do is just check the logs. We're gonna save here our container ID, and we're gonna use it to run a Docker logs against that container, and we can see indeed there's just one line, but there is some logs being created there. Right, so now what we're gonna do, we have just one process. So just one instance of our service running in the cluster. Because we have 3 nodes, we can run obviously more instances. We're gonna scale out to 10 instances of our web server. So it's very, very simple. We just run Docker service scale web server equal to 10, and straight away we have scale out to 10 containers of our server, or our service. So if we run service inspect against our web server, we can see that we have indeed 10 replicas, which is good. So now if we list obviously the processes for our service, we see that we have 10 processes running across the 3 servers. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and check out that the web server is reachable from the 3 nodes. Remember, we mapped the ports, so if we try to reach port 80 of each of the nodes, we should be able to reach port 80 of one of the containers. So we're gonna basically collect first all the IPs of our nodes, and then we're gonna run curl. So we start with node 1 Docker 001, and again the welcome page is displayed. We do the same for node 2, same result. Node 3, everything is good. All right, so let's do something fun to finish. Let's just gonna go and shut down one of the nodes. So we're gonna shut down Docker 003, and let's see what happens. Obviously what's going to happen is that the swarm cluster is going to be clever enough, and it's going to take the services that run in Docker 003, and they're going to be moved somewhere else. So we're still going to have 10 processes running for our service. So if we check the list of our machines, we can see that Docker 03 is currently stopping, so it's not reachable anymore. And if we check the processes of our web server, we can see that there are 3 of them that are now shut down, but they have been moved to another node. For example, web server 9 is now running in Docker 001, web server 8 is now running in Docker 002, and so on. So there you go. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much.